What is happening, Tribe? Good to see you guys again. Welcome back to the show, wherein we will focus on the transfer queues for Game Week 16, which starts on Saturday. A couple of interesting developments in the last 36 to 48 hours, and some as recent as 3 to 4 hours back. As I think all of us must be aware about the COVID outbreak in the Spurs camp. So there's no surety, there's no clarity in terms of which are the players who are going to get affected, and whether the game against Brighton on the weekend is going to get postponed. So there's a lot of confusion around it. Having said that, the reason I'm bringing this up is obviously because of the fact that a lot of us own Son and Kane, as well as Reguilon and Davis as well. So this episode we have made thinking that the game is going to be postponed. So the transfer queues will have been arranged as per that. And second, and much bigger news, obviously, the AFCON now being rescheduled a week or two, I think, prior to the original plan. Now I think it's starting on the 9th of Jan. Earlier it was around 20th or 21st of Jan. So how it's going to impact the African players? There are a lot of players across the Premier League. So that'll be interesting to see, when the players leave, game week 19, game week 20. So we're gonna take a look at that. Welcome, Bowen. A couple of good, interesting developments in the last two days.
Absolutely, Anuj. A lot to digest and a lot to plan for.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's just focus on today. We're gonna start with our transfer queues for game week 16, and this is the juncture where fixtures are kind of turning in favor of a couple of or 2 to 3 big teams, and that's why I think Game Week 16 is quite critical in terms of transfers, and I think people are left with the wild cards as well. So we'll start straight away. We'll start with Cristiano Ronaldo. We have given the fixtures right here. The next 5 fixtures, the ones marked in yellow are the away games, and the one marked in white are the home games. Is it safe to say that people who have Kane and considering that the game might get postponed, is it like a no-brainer to get onto Ronaldo?
Seems that way, Anuj. I think in terms of the way the fixtures have fallen, and particularly the group stages in the European competition as well, Champions League.
Right.
I think the deck is pretty clear for Ronaldo to focus on the PL. There are, I think, a lot of factors that contribute to Ronaldo being a popular transferring target over the next 4-5 weeks. So, as you said, firstly, there is a big cloud over Spurs fixtures, and not only the Brighton fixture, but probably the Leicester fixture after that as well, given the short turnaround, right? So, if you miss the weekend fixture, then there is little chance of Spurs being able to field the 11 3 days later. So there are 2 fixtures there where Spurs assets are out. Chelsea assets, again, Lukaku hasn't done much and kind of hasn't created too much of an impression to be able to stake a claim for that berth. Spurs play Leicester in the midweek, so any Vardy owner also would have to eventually consider moving out to another premium attacker. And I think the other thing about the AFCON bit, and that really plays into United and Ronaldo in particular, because earlier if you had expected AFCON break to come between game week 21 and 25, you would have been looking for an alternative captaincy candidate during that fixture, assuming Salah is not playing. That point of time, you had a couple of options, namely Spurs assets. But if you really look at the revised break between 19 and 23, I mean, it absolutely falls perfectly for United assets. So from 19 to 23, if I was to read their fixtures out, they play Newcastle, Burnley, Wolves, and Villa. And if you expect, a slightly longer holding period also, West Ham, Burnley, and Southampton are the next 3 fixtures after 23 onwards. So I think all this falls very conveniently for Ronaldo to step in as an asset. And it's a little bit of a similar situation to what we saw with Spurs and Conte about 5-6 weeks back. A great fixture run coming with the caveat that a new manager is trying to set his team up and set his
Correct. Correct.
philosophy. But I think the couple of key differences that come in there is whichever Spurs asset you got in, you weren't really looking at him for captaincy. Now captaincy is a big conversation also. So in
Yeah.
terms of impact, I think it will be a bigger impact point. And we'll come to the Ronaldo replacements, but in terms of the way the team was set up in the 4-2-2-2 formation, wherein you had one mobile forward and one more kind of a target man in the form of
Yeah.
Ronaldo, uh, and the fact that Cavani isn't fit, so he's just started training. I think today or yesterday was his first training session.
Right.
Given his age, given his kind of recovery process and the
Yeah.
injuries that he's had, you wouldn't expect him to play for the next 2-3 weeks immediately. So I think
Right.
everything points very conveniently to Ronaldo coming in and maybe even making a high impact with him being a captaincy shout in the next 4-5 weeks.
No, absolutely. I think you cover all the points in terms of, especially the captaincy now, because like I said, we don't know when the African players are going to leave. Whether it's going to be 19 game week or before that. Uh, and moving Salah, I think even if it's earlier, as you said, earlier had they gone as per the schedule, I was of the opinion that I might just leave him on the bench for like 2-3 game weeks, and we'll see how it goes from there. But now, obviously, it's a gap of 5 to 6 game weeks, and you gotta get you gotta look at United assets, and especially he's the number one asset to look at. We have a couple of more assets which we're going to discuss later. But in terms of stats, not really surprised. So these obviously the stats, the ranking is as per all the other forwards compared. His XG is first, minutes per chance, much very very close to Antonio's. Antonio's is around 23 minutes per chance, and big chances he's at 9, which is second. Do you want to take a guess who's the first in big chances in strikers?
Is it King by any chance?
It's Benteke.
Wow.
Yeah, so they play even the fixtures. The good thing is they're playing in the next 5 game weeks. 3 are away, and I think obviously United's form away is much better. Norwich, Brentford. Now the good thing about these away games is Norwich, Brentford, Newcastle. Now they'll be playing at home, and they would not obviously sit back. They would like to play a fluent game and a dynamic game. So which obviously will play in Ralph Ragnick's how he wants to play, and Ronaldo is the first proponent to really benefit out of that. So yes, it's I don't have Kane. So people who have Kane, it's just like the easiest ever replacement which you can be done to Ronaldo. Considering there are no other fires left here and there. We'll go next to Ollie Watkins. Now this is primarily on the basis that how Steven Gerrard's influence has been on Aston Villa for the last 4 game weeks. They won 3 games, lost one, and they were not easy fixtures. They played Brighton, they played Leicester City, and I think they played one more team. I'm forgetting. I think Newcastle. So under Dean Smith as well, these guys in terms of Aston Villa used to attack. So when I was looking at his stats under Dean Smith versus his stats under Gerrard, there's not too much of a difference. It's just that the only difference I saw, which was not glaring, but a substantial difference, was the number of penalty touches he's had in the last 4 games as compared to what he had against under Dean Smith. On an average, now he has around 4 penalty touches every game. Earlier, it used to be around below 3. So he's more attacking. Apart from the next fixture, I think the next 5 fixtures, apart from the next one and game week 19, which is Chelsea, I think Aston Villa, the way they have started, I think they can beat anybody right now. And again, even the game against City, especially the second half, the game against Leicester, the last one in the second half, I think they just took them apart, the opposition, and whether it's away, whether it's home, I think though it's a short sample of 4 games under Gerrard, but I think Ollie Watkins at 7.5, is looks a real deal. He's played all 90 minutes, all 4 games 90 minutes, so he's now more fit. And I was just reading Gerrard's interview with Jamie Carragher, and the clarity that he has in terms of where he wants to take Aston Villa in the next 2-3 years and he's specifically Watkins. He wants him to be a regular part of the England squad and so on and so forth. So it seems like that Watkins is his focus in terms of being the striker of England team going forward. He's a young guy, fit guy, and I think he might be a differential. I think he's still 10 under less than 10% ownership. And considering the opponents he's had, they're going to face from 17 onwards is Norwich, Burnley, Leeds, and Brentford. So all these teams would like to attack, come out of their shell, and love to attack them. So I think Watkins would be a nice differential going forward. This is like a true differential right now. West Ham defense, I think it's filled with injuries. Zuma, I think Cresswell, now Johnson, who's the right wing back. They all injured. Now Coufal had started the first 7 game weeks. Then obviously he got injured and Johnson took his place. Now Johnson has got injured. Now he's back. Now just a reminder on what he did last season. He was second for the number of assists given by defenders. First was his colleague Cresswell. He was at 11. He had West Ham at 11 clean sheets. They were 5th best in last season, and he had 10 big chances created, which was again the 5th best in terms of the defenders. So he plays a right wing. I was just looking at the stats in the first 7 game weeks when he started the games. West Ham's most number of chances, the amount of chances they were creating from the right were really high, which was around 40%. The moment he got injured, from 8th to game week 13, that 40% number went down to 20%. So Johnson was not really, he was not like a apple-to-apple replacement for him. And he's come back in the last 2 game weeks, and that number has gone up again to 35%. So he's quite, critical for West Ham's in terms of the chances created and so on and so forth. He's at 4.7. Last season he started at 4.5. He ended at 4.8. He had I think 4 points per game kind of an average last season as well. So he's obviously West Ham is not known to keep clean sheets, but they've only kept 2 clean sheets so far this season. But he could be a solid differential. Even if you look at West Ham's fixtures, they are, I think, number 2 in FDR in terms of the next 6 game weeks. He could really be a good differential. And would he? A lot of people are looking at getting rid of Livramento and maybe going away from that, big at the back kind of a structure. So do you reckon there might be a couple of people like him people can look at?
Absolutely, Anuj. I think big at the back hasn't really worked out, particularly for the Chelsea fullbacks. So I think a lot of people are reconsidering going back to a back 3. I would say let's hope for Kante to be back because he's really been the key to Chelsea keeping clean sheets. But
Right.
if you are kind of setting your team up afresh, or if you're on a wild card, probably 3 at the back is the way to go. The only caveat with West Ham is I think the injuries that they have across the back line. So Cresswell is flagged, a couple of their first choice centre backs are flagged. So that really makes it a little difficult for you to bank on clean sheets despite the fixture run. But I think if you see a little bit of a improvement in the injury situation, particularly for the centre backs, then I think Coufal could be a great option.
Right. No, because he and Cresswell were absolutely in the same mold as what Trent and Robertson are for Liverpool. So I think these two had better numbers than Robertson and Trent last year. I think Trent and Robertson had 9 plus 8, 17 assists, and these two had Cresswell and Coufal had around 20 assists. So so they could be critical. But yes, you're right. It's like he should be definitely in the watch list. Extremely low ownership of 0.8% or 0.9%, and with good fixtures. And definitely he's going to be playing now. Full 90 minutes.
Yeah. Just word on. Sorry, Anuj, just on Watkins. So, really the other point on Watkins was his fixtures from game week 17 onwards. And in terms of setup, I think if you're looking to go budget in attack, and I think that's a call that has worked out pretty well for those who have a premium midfield setup with Son and the likes thereof. he could be a great option along with Antonio because apart from say the 5-6 million forward spot, which by default would be either a Watford attacker mostly or even Pookie for those who want to take a punt. I think in the
Yeah.
7 to 8 million space, if you're looking, I think the top two would be by default Antonio and Watkins. So that is
Correct.
really the other play. If you're not really going premium or going Ronaldo, would be to downgrade and then use the funds to upgrade in midfield. So Watkins works very well there. And the other good part is Gerard has instantly realized that he can't make a two forward system work. So he's
Yeah.
absolutely been clear in dropping Ings and
Things, yeah.
making sure Watkins leads the line. So I think that is one other big favorable point in looking at Watkins.
Absolutely. No, it's good that you said that because I'm just gonna flip between slides in terms of fixtures of Aston Villa and West Ham. So obviously we know from 17 Norwich, Burnley, Leeds, and Brentford for him, and for Antonio, who's also obviously part of West Ham, it is Burnley, Norwich, Southampton, Watford. So if you have both of them together, I don't think the combination can be any better in terms of the opposition's defense numbers and how bad they are. So yeah, that's a good shout from you. All right, West Ham in demand. This has been a big obviously since the fixtures are now turning. Bowen versus Antonio, who to pick? If one is to be picked or both are to be picked. What's your take on this?
I think honestly, it's a both combination. I don't think either
Mm.
or works. To my mind, as I said, given West Ham's defensive injuries, if they were to get wins out of this favorable stretch, they would prefer and position themselves to attack more and get more
Right.
goals. And in that kind of a scenario, I see both Bowen and Antonio being clear-cut candidates. The good point is not only the next 4 5, but even the long-term fixture schedule looks extremely
Correct.
appealing. I mean, if you really put a constraint and say I have to pick one out of the two, simply on recent stats and eye test, I would say Bowen looks probably a slightly more attractive option, given that
Yeah.
Antonio has been marked a lot and he's been playing as the foil to create chances for guys like
Correct.
Bowen and Fornals and the likes thereof. So probably slightly favoring Bowen over Antonio, but personally, I would say it's a matter of time before you get both into the setup.
No, absolutely, and it's good that you mentioned that he has been marked quite well by the opposition, and obviously West Ham did play Liverpool, Chelsea, and City, in the last 5 game weeks. So 3 out of these, they really marked him well, and the reason the stats that we have kind of put up here are from game week 5 to game week 15 is also because of the fact that the first 4 game weeks, he had already I think 4 goals and 4 assists, and I think Bowen did not have even a single involvement in goal. Now from there on, he's been on a lean patch. He did get an assist in the last game week, but the stats, if you look at uh, in terms of XG, XA. So though, to be honest, he's more involved in creating the chances better than Bowen. So I think Moyes also realizes that the opposition is kind of really guard him well and track him well. So he's realized that okay, you're not going to be my main striker. That's not going to be your only job. So you're going to create as well. Uh, you can see shots in the box. Absolutely, Bowen has ruled it. Big chances as well. Uh, Now, so obviously this was again, I'm talking about the last 5 game weeks. They really had tough opposition, but yes, he has been blanking since game weeks 5. So people who have stuck on to him, and I think I know a lot of people have stuck on to him because of the value, which is still attached to him. I think it's still fallen to 7.9. Bowen, I think his price rose yesterday or today. Sorry, he's 6.5. If you own both of them, it's like a 14.4 kind of an expense, which looking at their, as you said, not just the next 5 game weeks, but the next 7 to 8 to 10 game weeks, even if you have both of them, especially now when Salah is not going to be around, I think both look a really good shout. And West Ham, even if they don't win, but they're still scoring. It's never going to be a scenario with them that they don't score. So I got Bowen just yesterday because they're not going to be involved in the Europa League as well because they've already won the group. Looking forward to these West Ham fixtures and how well he plays. Having said that, though he has had 7 big chances till now in the last 10 game weeks, but his finishing is still not that top. He has missed quite a bit chances and not as good a finisher as Antonio. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. Let's go on to the next one. So again, like we said in the beginning of the show, United assets now combined with the factor of Salah going to be missing maybe from game week 19 onwards. So yes, Ronaldo looks like to be a very, very obvious choice. But there are other couple of options as well apart from Ronaldo in terms of United assets. Here are two that we have tried to kind of figure out in terms of how well they're going to fit into Rangnick's structure and how he loves to play. Rashford versus Sancho. Do they really fit into the style of Rangnick?
I think they will, in terms of particularly the way he's been using both of them. So I think, as I said, for the two attackers, he's looking at one of the more pacier attacker and a target man. So I think, given that he's using Rashford centrally, that makes a very
Yeah.
interesting combination for all three of them to work, all four of them rather to work together: Bruno, Rashford, Sancho,
Right.
and Ronaldo. So I think they can definitely play together. The only caveat I would say is, of course, goes without saying that we've only seen this combination for one game, so it's a limited
Right.
sample size. But based on the game that we saw, Rashford was taking better positions, but Sancho was more involved in distribution and creating chances. That's really how the first game panned out. Obviously, we'll need to monitor this for maybe at least a game more before we take a call in either direction. But if I was to take a call today, I would say probably Rashford is more prone to substitution than lesser minutes than
Right.
Sancho, and that is probably one reason why you would look at Sancho. Sancho is probably also about zero point 0.5, zero point 0.6 million cheaper, and I think the fact that he has played in the last 2-3 seasons for Dortmund, who also press very very effectively, would probably mean he would get more minutes compared to Rashford, because you have Greenwood who can play there, you have Lingard who can play there, Martial who can play there. So that's
Right.
really probably one of the factors working against Rashford. But yeah, as I said, I mean, if you really want to take a punt, either of the two mids can have a decent output in the next 5-6 weeks.
So there is Ronaldo, Rashford, Sancho, and obviously Bruno.
Bruno.
So just to clarify, Sancho is 8.9, Rashford is 9.4. Ronaldo's now gone up to 12.4 today. Bruno, I think, is 11.6, 11.7, somewhere on that. Do you think two United attacking assets would be too much, or does it really call for it? Because looking at the fixtures.
I think for a start, maybe you could go with one, and then once you hit the period where Salah's out and you have more money to spend, probably then the double up might make sense. Because if you look at the game week 19, 20 to 24 stretch, Chelsea again have a pretty poor run. City have tough fixtures, so your go-to options will either be Spurs or United midfielders in terms of spending money on a premium
Right,
attacker.
right.
So I think that is where a double up could be in play. For now, I think it will be one of either a premium mid or Ronaldo is the structure that you should look at.
And like you said, that obviously Sancho used to play in Bundesliga, and I think that's where Ralph Rangnick has seen him, from close. Because I think and I think in his interview as well after the first match against Crystal Palace, I think he mentioned that yes, he's a big fan of Sancho, and also I think Rashford, as you said, he was subbed also after 70th minute. I don't know whether that was because of his that he's still not up to fitness, or whether it was just that it was the first game that was under Ralph and people were United really pressed well in the first 45 minutes. So just to get them used to how it's going to be in the future games. So yeah, it's a Sancho has had, I think he has had one couple of assists. Rashford has had a goal. Both of them didn't start from the beginning of the season. Rashford obviously was injured. 5 stars for Rashford, 7 for Sancho. Ownership is extremely low. Extremely low. Now looking at United fixtures, it's. I don't think it's going to take few days. I think this ownership is going to go up very, very soon. Obviously, people are going to look at the next game, and which is against Norwich. Now, people who want to take a little bit of risk, they can get either of them. If they can't get Ronaldo, because it's Norwich at the end of the day. Yes, they have become better at home, but I think still it's they're going to be goals for United as well. Penalty touches is higher for Rashford right now. Sancho is still low and obviously Sancho plays more minutes than Rashford. So yeah, it's going to be a good one. You have any United asset right now?
Not really, Anuj. The play is to go for either one of them next week. Once you look at another game and see how the pattern flows. The other thing is you also want to see how they play in the UCL. So that gives you a little bit of idea about who the second string team is.
Correct.
So too early to jump, but I think it's a matter of time before we pick one of their attackers.
Yeah, speaking about UCL, one guy I'm going to see if he's going to play in UCL will be Wan-Bissaka, because he has been sitting on the bench for the last 2 games as Dalot has really looked that he is fit for the new managers, how he wants to play him. He's absolutely cheap at 4.4. If Wan-Bissaka, I don't see any reason why he should come back and replace Dalot in the Premier League now, because he has had some 2 good, I wouldn't say fantastic, but I would say 2 good, effective games under his belt now. Do you see how do you see this shaping up, Wan-Bissaka versus Dalot?
It's a tough one, but based on what we've seen in the first 2 games, I see no reason why Dalot shouldn't be first choice. I think the fact remains is that the way we are lining up in terms of looking at the 4 forward players, Rashford, Ronaldo, Sancho, as well as Bruno. I think Rashford and Ronaldo have a tendency to drift to the left.
Correct.
Sancho also, from his original right wing place, always looks to come into the box. So there's a lot of space on the right hand side for the right back to use. And that is the area where I think Wan-Bissaka was extremely poor. His crossing was suspect. His forward involvement, attacking play, and chances creation was not up to the mark. I think that is one area where Dalot definitely is an upgrade to him. And defensively also, he was really struggling in terms of his tackles and positioning. So the way Dalot has played in the last 2 weeks, I would say it's his spot to lose, unless there's a big error or something coming. I think he can really nail down a place. But again, I wouldn't want to bet on this till I see Wan-Bissaka in the Champions League. Suddenly, if he comes up with a great performance, you have a question. So I think Dalot is a great 5th defender to have if you can spare a transfer, or if you're setting up your wildcard team, but not confident enough to make him my 4th defender. That's really where I would be at this point.
Yeah, because obviously this season's United's clean sheet record hasn't been really impressive as well. So yeah, Dalot. Yes, the fixtures are there, but yes, as you rightly said, you have to kind of see him how he performs in the next few games. Similar is the case with Cash from Aston Villa. He's at 5 million, but has looked extremely sharp, because that's how Gerrard loves to play. That's how he played at Rangers as well. This seems to be like a go-to model for most of the young modern managers now. They need to have flying wing backs, and they just want to see them bombard in front and play 3 at the back, which eventually becomes 2 at the back, and it's 5 in the middle or 5 up front with the 2 strikers that they have. So Cash is one, which can be on the watch list. Looking at Aston Villa's fixtures, which turn very nicely for them post the Liverpool game next weekend. He's on the left hand side. On the right hand side is Target. Target has given returns under Gerrard. Cash is yet to give a return. The only issue I have with them right now is that the clean sheet record. They have played tough games, in the last 4 games under Gerrard, but still, they have been. They could have easily had one clean sheet easily because they gave a very easy goal. I think against Brighton, if I'm not wrong. So yes, Aston Villa assets look pretty attractive, including Watkins, Cash. There are a couple of them in the midfield as well, and obviously United assets are all over the place in terms of for FPL managers to really observe and look at them. You have any transfers to be made this week?
Made a couple already, Anuj. So I
Nice.
booted out Tony and got in King. I think that was probably the
Yeah.
easiest move I've made all year. And
Right.
the other move has been to sell MUN WHU and get Bowen. So those are the two moves.
Right. Yeah, and Mummy, I think just gave us a nice parting gift with a assist.
Yeah.
So
So we are actually replacing one 4% owned asset with another 4% owned asset.
yeah,
And hopefully we are better luck this time.
right.
But just
All
on
right.
defense,
Yeah.
the other name Anuj also worth looking at is Ashley Young. So you mentioned Villa and their run. Young, I think, plays out of position. He plays in the front three or midfield, but is classified as a defender, if I remember correctly. So a lot of
Correct.
these budget defense options. There is Davies at Spurs. There is Dalot. There is the Villa fullbacks, and that's really because the cheap fourth and fifth defender spots are really up for grabs. I think even if you look at Livramento's fixtures, he has two standout fixtures where you would play him. I think he has Newcastle home and Burnley home. And that apart till game week 27, 28, which is probably the next wildcard time, you
Yeah.
don't really have a great fixture for Livramento to play. So those are,
Correct.
I mean, I know they are luxury transfers because you're swapping out your fifth defender, but those are really moves that you can
Yeah.
make and can pay off.
Absolutely, and this is the time where, like I said, game week 16, 17 is a time where fixtures are turning well for big teams, and big teams obviously you kind of relate to them with clean sheets and a lot of attacking returns. So yeah, so this is the time in the next 2-3 game weeks to really. I will request people to really look at these players who you want to target. Look, watch the matches or highlights just to see, do your own eye test, not just stats, and then kind of combine these two factors and take a call. All right, it was a great discussion, Bhavin. For all the viewers and all the listeners, please consider supporting FPL Trybe by liking this video and going ahead and subscribing to the channel, both on YouTube as well as on all the podcast platforms that we have. And thank you very much, Bhavin. I will look forward to meeting you next week, and we'll take care of a transfer queue session for Game Week 17.